Maybe the men and women were corrupt. I find it harder to buy the infants, but sure, maybe the infants need to be killed as well. But the cattle and the donkey? Okay, so as it turns out, about a year ago, I thought I came to Stanford. I thought I have all these smart friends who are Christians. I might as well start looking into it, right?
Great.
And then I open up Matthew and I open up Luke, and suddenly it becomes apparent to me that, okay, something's not right here. And here's my claim, and then I'll back it up with some evidence. The gospel writers are willing to intentionally manipulate historical facts in order to fulfill a theological purpose. And here's why I say this. In Luke, the family is originally from Bethlehem. Hold on, I have this in my notes here. Sorry, they're from Nazareth. They go to Bethlehem for a census. Apparently there's this Roman census. People have to go back to their ancestral homeland. And so they're back in Bethlehem. That's where Jesus is born. And the family returns to Nazareth. Only problem is there's no account of such a census. There's no record of such a census. If there were such a census, it wouldn't even make sense for people to return to their ancestral homelands, because the Romans wanted to see what property they had for tax purposes, and the property would still be back at home. So the reason that the author has the family go to Bethlehem on this short trip is because of the prophecy in Micah 5:2, right? That out of the Messiah will come from Bethlehem. And then I go to Matthew, right? In Matthew 2, Jesus is born in Bethlehem. There's no backstory of how they got there. Then they're afraid of Herod. They flee to Egypt. And then they return to Nazareth, right? Joseph wants to go back to Judea, but they're afraid of Herod's son. And so they go to Nazareth. And in Matthew 2:23, it says, so the prophecy was fulfilled, right? That the Messiah should be called a Nazarene, or something like that, right? The only problem with that is there's no such prophecy. I think the scholars, or the consensus is that it was a mistranslation of the Hebrew word Nazir, which means consecrated one. And so he made this mistake. And because of this translation mistake, he invents this whole prophecy for why Joseph chose Nazareth instead of going back to Judea. So either way, like whichever ones you want to say are correct here, they've created this irreconcilable birth narrative. They need Jesus to be born in Bethlehem. And so Luke invents a census. Matthew comes up with a prophecy that doesn't even exist to justify why they were in Nazareth. Either way, my claim is that they were willing, one of those two at least, were willing to twist a historical fact in order to align with the theological narrative that they wanted to make Jesus conform to.
Obviously, Jesus grew up in Nazareth, but he was born in Bethlehem. No problem, no contradiction. Different perspectives. And sir, every time you put together history, you want different perspectives that include different details. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I trust the Gospels to give me accurate historical information, because they have similarities and dissimilarities. And if you study AP and Reuters and CNN and Fox, there better be some dissimilarities in the reportage. They better not be carbon copies, otherwise we got a real problem. So you're right, we have different perspectives in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, different details included, other details excluded from different ones. That's one of the reasons I trust them as historically viable, because of the similarities and the dissimilarities. Similarities on the majors, dissimilarities on the minors.
Why would they have to go back to their ancestral homeland for a census?
Because in Israel and Palestine at that point, that was the requirement, to Bethlehem, because it was the house of David.
If there was a census throughout Rome, the Roman Empire, there would be no record of all these people traveling back to their homelands.
It's recorded as happening in Palestine, in Israel. Okay, it's not saying that every part of the Roman Empire. It's similar to Paul saying, I preach the gospel to the whole world. Did Paul go to Antarctica? Did he go to Australia? No, but he's using the word whole world to talk about the known world at that point. So obviously the gospel writers are talking about the known world at this point. There was a census taken and people went back to their ancestral homeland.
No other attestation whatsoever of this census where everyone has to go back to their homelands.
Not everyone in the whole empire
happens to fulfill this prophecy.
Oh, baloney. That's not fair at all intellectually. And they have to go back to their family homeland, their family town of birth. It's not a problem.
Convenient, isn't it?
What do you mean convenient? Every number of years they took a census.
But no other census where we have anyone saying that they have to go back to their ancestral homeland.
Fine. But they took censuses, and it happened that in Israel you had to go back to your town of birth or your family birthplace.
Okay, so again, this is where I think if we have no record of anything like this, through something we would obviously have records if there was this massive census where everyone had to go back. This is why I think there's at least some evidence to say this. But then let's go to Matthew then. he's saying that they went to Nazareth. This prophecy in Matthew 2:23 was fulfilled, but the prophecy never existed. So at the very least, we have these irreconcilable birth narratives, right?
The reason
Either
you're
one
wrong,
is-
I'll tell
it's
you
not
why you're wrong,
perspective. One or-
because you are addressing Old Testament prophecies that are used in a very difficult way. Those Old Testament prophecies that Matthew, Mark, Luke, well, especially Matthew, uses to show that Jesus is Messiah are very difficult to interpret. No question about it. We agree. But there's no massive contradiction. Instead, it's a real difficulty. Matthew, how are you using this Old Testament prophecy to show that Jesus is really Messiah? Very difficult issue, we agree. Very difficult.
So then, either way, what you have is a birth narrative that cannot be reconciled. That the family fled
That's
to
not
Egypt
true at all.
and come back to
That's
Nazareth.
not true at
Or did
all.
they go-
That-
Which one is it?
If you were to apply the degree of specificity that you're demanding out of the Gospels to every text you read, you'd have to jettison every text you read.
Well, then we know one-
You are being hyper-skeptical. Skepticism is good. Be skeptical. Don't be hyper-skeptical. It'll get you in a lot of trouble.
We have a contradiction. In Matthew, there's the flight to Egypt, and then they come to Nazareth, right? When they come to Nazareth, they're introduced to this town of Nazareth.
Where's
In
the
Matthew-
contradiction? You still haven't given it to me.
Yeah, in Luke, they don't do that. They just go to
It's
Bethlehem
silent.
and come home.
You cannot say there's a contradiction when a text is silent and another text makes another point. That is so dishonest intellectually, it's scary.
They go from-
If one U.S. history book talks about the Battle of Gettysburg and the other U.S. history book makes no mention of the Battle of Gettysburg, you do not have a contradiction. You have no contradiction when one text is silent. Come on, sir, you know that. You're a brilliant student. You wouldn't be here if you weren't.
Well, that's-
You know that that's not fair what you're doing.
It's even more fair what you're not doing, because you're saying the census just so happened in this one place in the Gospels, and we have no record of it.
That's baloney. There are plenty of records of a census
Who?
being taken.
Who?
Quirinius was governor in 4 AD. Well, that's a really long gestation period for Mary to have Jesus in her womb. Well, wait a second. There's evidence that Quirinius was governor of Syria in 4 BC as well. So there's no big problem. They're difficult issues. Yes, I agree with you. We've already said that. They're difficult issues, but there's no contradiction.
In Matthew, at least, Herod's order to kill the infants, right? Why? Okay, if Herod was killing the infants, we'd assume there was some historical record of this outside of the
You
Gospel.
gotta be kidding me. You think the Romans are concerned about whether Herod slaughters little babies?
Herod is
You
running
think
around
they're gonna make a
slaughtering
record of that in the Roman history? Are you kidding me? He goes to
average
Bethlehem
neighborhood fleet,
and has
and there's no
his
record.
soldiers slaughter infants in Bethlehem. And if you think the Romans are gonna be too concerned about a few babies slaughtered in Bethlehem, and therefore Pliny and Suetonius and Tacitus and all the great Roman historians are going to write, oh boy, Herod was a naughty boy. He slaughtered a few babies in Bethlehem. Come on,
Okay,
get real.
So if you guys are keeping track, here's what we have so far. A census we have no record of, and Herod killing the infants, so much killing that this family had to flee, right? And no record of this. All these people living in Judea, right? And we have not one record of Herod ordering the killing of these infants.
Yes, you
outside
do.
this one line.
In the Gospels, you do.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. There's no other attestation outside of...
Yeah, fine. And where's the record of Jesus walking on the water in Roman history? Come on, sir.
That's my
You're
claim.
being
The
so
Gospels
intellectually
are lying.
dishonest. It's scary.
The two of them are making it up at the very least.
No, they're not making it up. They are recording a very accurate historical event. And just because you don't have a bunch of Roman historians around doing it as well,
Anyone, any record whatsoever.
yeah, you don't have a bunch of historians running around saying exactly what happened in Syria, in Israel, in Africa, in Europe. You don't have that degree of specificity in history.
Okay,
You're
so-
being hyper skeptical, sir. It's not fair.
I was raised in a Jain family.
Yes.
It's a religion that's pretty well attested to for at least a few thousand years. The central claim of the Jain religion is
Yep.
that animals we should do everything in our power to minimize the suffering of animals.
Yes.
Right? And then I open up the Bible and read through the Old Testament, and what I find is God in Samuel orders Saul to destroy the Amalekites, the women and the women,
Yes,
the
sir.
children and the infants, the cattle and the donkey. Now I can give you that maybe the men and women were corrupt. I find it harder to buy the infants, but sure, maybe the infants need to be killed as well. But the cattle and the donkey?
Okay.
And when Saul leaves alive some of the animals,
Yes.
what does God say? I regret that I have made Saul king.
That's correct. Very accurate you are.
Why? Okay, in the flood, when God kills the animals, it says
Yes.
they died over 40 days and 40 nights. So an agonizing, torturous death. And if all of this you want to say is because this is not the world as God made it, God made a perfect world but we rejected God, and so evil and suffering entered the world. This is not how God intended.
Right.
But this is the consequence of our actions. Well, how do you then explain the billions of years of suffering of animals before any human even showed up? You have animals suffering, dying, predation, just unimaginable amounts of suffering for hundreds of millions, if not billions of years, before the first human, before any human ever showed up.
Yep.
So it seems that God is not only perfectly comfortable with suffering before this fall of animals at a mass scale, but even more so is comfortable with the torture and death of all of these animals under his own command. He orders the divine armies to slaughter the
God
Achilles
have the
of
right to
horses.
judge? Does God have the right to judge?
Judge someone who's not a moral agent?
Does God have the right to judge?
Judge
Answer
who?
the question.
Judge human, sure.
All right. So if God has the right to judge, and the Bible records that God has judged at different times, we're not holding that against God. Because God is just, he judges justly and fairly, but he does judge.
Well, where was the justice in killing the cattle and the donkeys? What did they do?
They didn't do anything wrong.
So then why were they killed?
Look, it's really naive if you think that this fine university was put together last summer. Obviously, this fine university was put together over a long period of years where people sacrificed, and you're the beneficiary, aren't you? So now, this whole idea that, oh, it's all one-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one is baloney. You didn't do anything to put this fine university together. You benefit from it because other people sacrificed. Similarly, if other people make wrong decisions, there are going to be consequences that travel down through the years. And you're going to get hurt by them. And you have been hurt by them. And so have I. So have all of us.
Tell me who made the mistake here.
God creates us with a free will. We choose to rebel against God. God takes a step back, and chaos fills the gap. You're not born into a fair world. You're not born into a just world. You're born into a grotesquely unfair, unjust world, not because God created it that way, but because your forefathers and foremothers chose to rebel against God, as did mine. God takes a step back because he respects our free will, and chaos erupts. So you're born, and animals are born, into a grotesquely unfair world.
You made the justification of the fall, right? I still don't understand how that leaves any room for the cattle and the donkeys to be needless. Like, but let's just say this is because of the fall. It's chaos, right?
Why are animals valuable? Why are animals valuable?
I'm not making a claim. I'm not saying.
Oh, yes, you are. You're saying it's evil that the Bible talks about God judging animals. That was your whole point. Now, answer my question. Why are animals valuable?
My claim here is I'm not making an active claim. What I'm saying is like Lincoln said, if this is not wrong, then nothing is wrong. You claim that this is a loving God. All I see is him ordering the torture and killing of animals, and even before humans showed up in his perfect world, before the fall, just billions of years of unmitigated suffering. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with any of this. I'm agnostic to this question. But you're the one claiming that this is supervised by a loving God. The burden is on you, sir, not me.
No, sir. You've got to come up with the most plausible, the most reasonable answer to these difficult questions. And my first point to you, sir, is if there is no God, animal life is insignificant, human life is insignificant, because it's all a cosmic accident. And your whole moral outrage over pain in animals is totally absurd, totally meaningless if there is no God. You're cutting the ground out from beneath your moral indignation.
I'll give you that. It's a good rhetorical trick when I say, what about...
No, it's not a rhetorical trick. It's called logic.
Answer my
It's
question.
called reason. I am answering
What
you.
happened before the fall?
I'm trying to chill you out with your moral outrage over something that you have no right to be morally outraged about.
What?
And that's
Why
not a
is this
trick,
different
sir.
from the fall? I'm
It's
not
trying to be
saying
intellectually
this is
consistent.
Under my philosophy, there could be a loving God, there could be an evil God,
Oh,
there
don't give me this
anything.
could be. What do you believe?
I don't know.
Well, then why are you so outraged over animals getting suffering?
Because I think it contradicts your claim of an all-loving
Oh,
God.
you don't give a rip about my claim. You stick with your worldview. What in your worldview tells you that the pain of animals is wrong? Why is it wrong that an animal suffers?
You keep asking me the questions. I've said, I'm willing to admit, I don't know the nature of the divine. I don't know what the nature of God is. You're the one saying, I know what the nature of God is. He is all-loving. So then you tell me, if you're making the claim there is an all-loving God supervising this, why is there animal suffering, profound amounts of it, before the fall?
The history of humankind is how we have wreaked havoc.
Before humans, underlined, before any humans
Have you ever heard of the fall of Lucifer?
So it's Lucifer's fault?
No, it's not Lucifer's fault. That's not what I said. But there was chaos before the fall of Adam and Eve. You alluded to, well, what about before Adam and Eve? And I'm telling you, there was problems before Adam and Eve, obviously. Why are you so outraged that animals suffer? Why?
I'm not. I'm not
You
even
told me you
a
did.
cognitivist. I don't think you can even make any of these claims.
No, sir, you're running an intellectual gymnastic ring, sir. Okay, I take you seriously. I respect what you say. But you better have the intellectual integrity to answer my question. Why are you so outraged over the suffering of animals?
If I say I don't know what the nature of God is, okay, I'll even make an open contention to you. Let's say if I read through the history of this planet, it seems more likely to me that God is evil than he is good, or that he has some kind of mixed nature like any of us. I can't get from billions of years of suffering to an all-loving God for animals, not for humans, mind you. I can see all kinds of justifications for that. But before any human shows up, billions of years of animals dying, I don't see all-loving God equals this. I can see any other form of God, he's evil and good, he's moody, who knows what God's nature is, right? I can see all this being consistent with him. I can see it being consistent with a deistic framework. God created the universe, and he's just set it in motion, and he's not supervising it. You're making all these active claims about the nature of God.
No, you've assumed a lot about what I believe and put words into my mouth I never said.
Is God all-loving?
Thank you for asking. Yes, God is all-loving, but that does not mean he does not limit his power by giving me a free will, which means if I go up to her, slap her in the face, and say, God made me do it, I'm a con artist and a liar. When I slap her in the face, that is evil because I am denigrating the purpose for which God gave me this hand. I'm denigrating her as a human being created in the image of God. That is why that's evil. But if there is no God and I slap her in the face, it's all relative, baby. And if I want to respect you and love you, great. And if I want to slap you in the face, that's my choice. And who are you to tell me that my choice is wrong? It's my choice. And hopefully you're not going to be so culturally elitist that you're going to tell me from your cultural perspective that for me to smack you in the face is wrong. Baloney. But if there is a God who created this woman with intrinsic innate value and created me for a purpose to love and respect her, then it is wrong. And the record of the Bible and the record of history is how we human beings have perverted the good gifts that God has given us, and chaos has erupted.
You just said this is some Lucifer's problem, right?
No, I didn't say it's Lucifer's problem.
But humans aren't even here. There's no free will. There's no moral agent. These animals don't know right from wrong.
Lucifer had a free will.
When there's a zebra, 1 million years ago, before any humans show up, there's a zebra somewhere on the African plain with his pipe caught in the jaws of a lion.
Yes.
Right? He's asphyxiating to death over hours.
Yes.
Dying an agonizing death.
Yes.
There's no humans. There's no free will. There's no moral way to rationalize it. There's no agent slapping someone across the face. Right? None of this is true. Right? There's not even a human yet.
Yep.
How does an all-loving God permit unnecessary suffering?
Because when Satan rebelled, evil entered the experience of
And where did
this
Satan
universe.
come from then?
God created Satan.
So God created Satan,
Yes.
knowing that Satan would rebel,
Yep.
and that's why we have animal suffering. You haven't pushed the problem back.
God created a guy named Adolf Hitler, knowing full well what Hitler would do. I don't know why God allowed that to happen. But I do know that God has chosen to partially limit his power by giving us a free will.
Even us.
Us and Lucifer. And I find it fascinating you brought up your zebra friend. When that zebra has a lion on his throat, the other zebras pull their heads up, look at their fellow zebra being slaughtered by that lion, and then they put their heads back down and continue to eat. There is a qualitative difference between you, a human being, with a mind, a conscience, and a will, versus an animal. So it all gets back to my first question to you, which you have not answered, which is, and I find it very interesting you've not answered me, why are animals valuable from your perspective, from your worldview? Why?
Apparently, I don't know is a fine answer when Cliffe says it, but not when I say it.
You can say whenever you want to say it, I don't know.
I've said it over and over again. I am not claiming that there's an all-loving God. I don't know the nature of the divine, right? I'm not making any active claims here. I don't know why God permits this. I don't think he is all-loving.
Sir, you made an active claim when you first stepped out of the crowd and expressed moral outrage over pain animals experience. And I'm pinning you to the wall, and you don't appreciate it, and I understand why. You don't appreciate because you said it, not me. You expressed outrage over animal suffering. Fine. Now I'm asking you, why is animal suffering so outrageous? You're the one who said it, not me.
Exactly. Okay. Let's.
Why?
Go, right?
Don't answer it. Right.
If this
Then,
is
sir,
not
I'm going to
wrong,
have to go on to somebody else. If you refuse to really engage, I'm going to have to go on to somebody else.
You can call it whatever you want, right? You can call it a moral.
No, not you can. What do you think? You experience moral outrage over animal suffering. Fine, I respect that. But when I ask you, why is it so outrageous that animals suffer, you're choking on your tongue, sir. You're not answering me.
I'm not joking on anything. When I
Yes,
see
you are.
animals suffer, I have a moral conscience. What Socrates might have called is the inner daemon, right?
Okay.
And when I see an animal cry out in pain and scream and bleed to death, I know how that would feel, right? If a lion had its jaws on my neck, I know
Okay.
how that would feel, right? I have the sense of what pain feels like. It's not a pleasant sensation, right? So if I see this deeply painful experience rooted in suffering,
Okay.
and I see that magnified out billions of times over billions of years, it does not lend to me that this is the result of an all-loving creator. This doesn't feel like love. If a lion had his jaws
Well,
on
if
my
there
neck,
is
and he
no
was standing
creator,
over here,
what's wrong with the lion ripping the
there
throat
may
out
be
of a zebra?
creator. He's not all-loving. How do you get from creator to the creator is all-loving?
It's real simple. If there is no loving creator, if there's just a power, a higher force, then morality is relative.
Sure, and morality is relative, so what?
Well, then why are you getting so upset about animal suffering? What's eating at your craw so badly? I'll tell you why. Because you got a conscience, and your conscience convicts you that certain things are right and other things are wrong. Your worldview problem, though, is you don't have a God, an intelligent mind prior to the human mind, who defines what's right and what's wrong. Therefore, you're up a creek without a paddle when it comes to answering my question. Why is it so wrong? Well, just because I see the pain. Well, what's wrong with pain? Is that just your arbitrary relative perspective that pain is bad? Or is there something really fundamental here when it comes to the value of an animal's life, the value of a human life?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you so very, very much.
Appreciate it.
Your name is?
Adi.
Adi, I'm Cliff. Good to meet you. Thank you, sir.